Representative Antani, welcome to Calfee Now. Thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. I know, we are less than a month out from the election, so I know it's a very busy time. So really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And, what we're trying to do on Calfee Now is really talk to officials, other folks who are very involved in what is going on here in Columbus and state government. And, I think where I really want to start out is, why did you decide to sign up for this? Why did you decide to be an elected official?
Yeah, sure. Well, I always been very politically interested. I remember, my first political memory is when I was 9 years old, the 2000 election, Bush v. Gore, and staying up all night and watching, the controversy of the hanging chads unfold. And I just remember that. But look, my parents came from India to the United States in 1978 and became citizens in 1984, and really believe, and as do I, in the concept of the American dream. And there are, real issues at stake. This country and my community that I represent gave us the opportunity to achieve our American dream, and now it's our job to make sure that everyone has that opportunity.
That's great. Well, in speaking of your district, and please talk about your current House district. Obviously, you're running for the Senate. What's the makeup of your district? What are some of the challenges you see there? What are some of the assets that it has? And what are you hearing from the folks there in the district?
Sure. My district is the southern suburbs of Dayton. It's a great suburban district. Obviously, there are different challenges for, urban, suburban, and rural communities. I do have a small portion of my district, population-wise, actually, land-wise, it's pretty large, but population-wise, that is rural. But I've got, everything from, great manufacturers to great agriculture to great, high-tech businesses and healthcare and everything in between. And so, really is a good sampling of our community in Ohio and, across. But again, right, I think that, as a suburban legislator, you approach things perhaps a little differently than an urban or a rural legislator. And also as a Dayton area legislator, you approach things differently than as someone from, the 3 Cs or what have you. So, I think that, when you sit in the House chamber, it's easy to just think that, oh, well, this is this one state rep and, this is another state rep, but you really are, a representative of your district, right? And every district is different, right? Those who represent the Cleveland suburbs are very different than those of us who represent the Dayton suburbs, but we've all got 120,000 people. And so, as you look across the chamber, I think it's important to remember that, each legislator represents, similar communities and that we're all Ohioans, but very different communities as well.
And have you found so far, in your time down here, this is what you expected? Has it been different than what you've expected?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it is what I expected. The one thing what I tell people that was unexpected is, and I don't think I've seen Calfee do this, but others do, is that, certain industries try to use the legislature as a tool over a competing industry, right? And that, to me is not why we're here, right? We are not here to, have, one industry do better than the other. Our job is a, fair and even playing field so that, Ohio businesses can thrive and grow, right? But unfortunately, I think that, some of what occurs here is, certain industries, and I won't name them, but, using the state house as a tool to make more money instead of, trying to even the playing field. And it's a lot different than, if an industry has a problem, sure, of course, our job is to fix the problem, but our job is not to give a competitive advantage of one industry over the other.
Well, in your time here so far in the House and as you head to the Senate, you have been one of the most effective legislators, and really across a broad spectrum. And I'm just thinking from the issues I've worked on you with, I think we've worked on issues from education, both higher and, primary education, biotech issues, other health related issues, free speech issues. I mean, you run the gamut. Why or what has made you tackle so many issues? And then what have you found that it's made you be so successful and effective down here? Obviously you have, 98 other members, and not all of them get to pass bills or work on things, and just kind of wondering what you found to be the key.
Sure. Well, I like to say that, there are three types of legislators, right? Number one, those who are extremely ideological and work on their ideology, right? Issues that affect their ideology. Number two is those who, work on, those who work on their personal agenda, right? They have personal beliefs and execute a personal agenda. And then lastly, which is what I try to do for the most part, which is to be a legislator for your community, right? For your district, right? Now, your district, of course, is going to face a gamut of issues. And that's how I try to approach. Of course, I'm ideological, I'm conservative, and I'm a Republican. And of course, I have personal views and thoughts, but, when the rubber hits the road, your job is to represent your community, right? And that's what, I try to do. And that's how I try to approach, everything.
Mm-hmm. It's obviously the Republicans are in firm control, House and Senate. Obviously, elections coming up, but I don't see that changing. You have been one who has worked with Democrats on issues when needed, or
when needed.
When needed. You've reached across the aisle. You've worked with your Republicans. Do you see? Obviously, we hear, unfortunately, I think Washington always gets all the attention, and a lot of the work is really done on the state level. Do you see bipartisanship coming back? Do you see it as an important part of the legislative process, especially with Republicans in such firm control here in Ohio?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a couple things, right? I'm willing to work with, a Democrat, on certain issues, and I have, but, I am one, and this is not perhaps the most popular answer, but Republicans and Democrats exist for a reason. We do not agree, right? There are fundamental differences amongst Republicans and Democrats. Republicans are pro-business, Democrats are not. Republicans are for cutting taxes, Democrats are not. Republicans are for personal freedom, Democrats are for, group rights. And so there are differences, and I do not make any bones about it that I believe in those differences. I'm not a Republican just to be a Republican. I'm a Republican because I believe in our party's agenda and our party's platform. That said, where we can find common ground without compromising our principles and beliefs, we should, right? So I've worked with, Democrats on, police and community relations. I've worked with Democrats on, taxes on tampons of all things. And so where we can agree, we should, but not at, sacrificing our principles. And I think, sometimes we talk about, bipartisanship, and we encourage it, and that's great, but we have to remember that, Democrats and Republicans do not agree for valid reasons, right? Partisanship exists for a reason, and in my opinion, as a Republican, it is good that we have control of all of the levers of government at this point, right? And so, I'm not for bipartisanship just for bipartisanship's sake. I'm for it when it makes sense and when it doesn't violate our principles.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you bring up a very good point. Partisanship is not a dirty word. It's, as you say, there is a reason for it, because there are definitely differences between the two parties. As you head to the Senate, and all you've worked on in the House, are there items you're hoping either to, I'll throw it open to items you want to finish up yet this year as we're kind of closing in General Assembly, or things that you're looking to really get into come next year in the new General Assembly, hopefully in the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you know, everything I haven't gotten done, I would still like to get done, number one. You know, the second thing I would say is obviously with, you know, the coronavirus, both on a health and economic side, there is a lot of work to do. And then, you know, the third thing I would say is, look, you know, as you progress in your time, right, you learn more and you can do more, right? You know, are able to pass bigger bills, right, and more important policy, and get more done for, you know, your district or what you believe in or your ideology, what have you, and so that's my hope, right? As you know, your first term, you're figuring it out. Your second term, this is my third term, and so, you know, I'm very much looking forward to, you know, the next year, and also, frankly, to lame duck to try to get, you know, a lot of things done.
And if I can, you know, add on something with the lame duck, obviously COVID has put a real pinch in Ohio's budget, and I think we're still trying to figure that out. You know, where do you see things kind of heading on the business front? You've been pro-business, very supportive of businesses throughout the state since since this all started, really since your time here. What do we need to do to make sure people still have jobs and these businesses can survive?
Yeah, I mean, I would say from a legislative standpoint, you know, other than you know, this, you know, balance of the health orders that, you know, yes, we want to protect lives, but also to have a flourishing economy. You know, the number one thing for me is that in this next budget, you know, we must make sure that we hold the line on taxes. We cannot give up 1 cent on taxes. There are already efforts that, you know, by Democrats in the legislature calling for tax increases, and, you know, I voted against the gas tax increase last year, and I'm proud of that vote. And you know, we have to hold the line on taxes. They're going to come for the small business deduction. They're going to come for the income tax. They're going to come for the sales tax. They're going to come for the CAT tax. They're going to try to raise every tax. And, you know, the number one priority collectively must be to ensure that we hold the line on taxes.
Mm-hmm. You know, as we're kind of wrapping up here, do you have any closing remarks? Anything I'd like to say to our audience who's going to listen to this at some point down the road, as you know, as we put this out there? Any kind of final thoughts on what's happening in the legislature or in Columbus?
I don't think so. Just thank you, and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Well, we really appreciate it. You know, the relationship Calfee has built with you has been terrific. And as I said earlier, when you find a legislator who is willing to really dig into a lot of issues, it means a lot to our clients, and I know it means a lot to your district. So thank you very much.